All right. I have 17 already, huh? Integrative reading activities. These are appropriate for all readers and writers. They develop appropriate use of background knowledge and print information. Number 1, making connections. Making connections to what you read, to yourself, to the world, or to other things like movies. Number 2, language experience approach, LEA. This is where you start with an experience, whether that's a trip or a pet or a classroom event or even a movie that you've watched. Then you have a discussion. Then you record. Usually it's an oral composition, so the student's retelling the event and the teacher is writing that down. Then there's a reading. The teacher reads what was written. The student and the teacher read it together. The student reads it independently. And then there's follow-up activities. Some examples of follow-up activities include finding similar words graphically, answering literal questions from the text, discussing sound similarities, deleting parts of the word, and then being asked to figure out what the word is with graphic clues, discussing the meaning of words. You can cut sentences apart and rearrange the order. You can cut words inside of sentences and rearrange the sentences. You can ask synthesis questions that require you to use multiple sentences. You can reread and encourage the children to predict words. You can delete words and have the students predict what those blank words are. You can model self-monitoring. Does this make sense? And you can provide positive feedback for corrections. Number 3, information reading technique. This is the same thing, LEA, but for nonfiction texts. So you select an article, you read it together, 2 paragraphs at a time. You discuss and check for understanding. The student restates the meaning, and then difficult words are noted. That's not really the same thing at all. But anyways, that's information reading technique. Number 4, contextual redefinition. This is where you start with a word in isolation. You discuss, hey, what might that mean? Then you read the word in context, again, have a discussion, and then you look it up in the dictionary. So 3 steps to contextual redefinition. Number 5, close technique. This is when you leave a part of a word or a whole word blank and you read the context before and after in order to try to find clues. Number 6, using context clues. Writers generally use a few types of clues to give you context. So definition, example, modifiers, restatement, series, repetition of keyword, or familiar connective. I'm not going to go into what each of those are, although it's pretty neat seeing examples of each of them. Minimal cues are when you blank out most of the sentence. Sorry, this is strategy number 7, minimal cues. You blank out most of the sentence and have the class or the student figure out what the sentence might mean. I think it's pretty fun. F blank 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 ing L blank VE TH blank S STR blank 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 Y. Number 8, anticipation guides. Activity background knowledge before reading. Activating background knowledge before reading. And so this is before reading strategy where you identify some major concepts. You develop 4 to 6 statements regarding those concepts, and then in pairs or small groups, students agree or disagree with these statements before reading. Number 9, directed reading thinking activity. You guide students to predict, read, discuss whether predictions are confirmed, and continue. It's important to note that this is not a guess the right answer, but the goal is to be engaged with the text. You can point out that authors, talented authors, part of their craft is not letting you guess what is next. Strategy 10, planned inferential reading lesson, PIRL. It's a set of sentences to verify, so whether they're true or not. Some are in the text and some are out of the text, and the goal is to recognize text implicit and text explicit information. All right, number 11, question-answer relationship, QAR. This is recognizing that there's 2 types of questions, in the book questions and in my head questions. The in the book questions are subdivided into 2 question types, right there and think and search. Right there questions, you can just find the answer. Think and search require you to take in multiple points of information to have the answer. The in my head is subdivided into 2 categories. Author and you are information that you bring to the table. On my own is information that does not use your background knowledge. Strategy number 12, KWL. So know, want to know, and learned. You make a chart writing down what you know, what you want to know, and what you have learned. Strategy 13, reciprocal teaching. This is a dialogue between teachers and students. You summarize a passage in a sentence. You ask one or two good questions, clarify a part that is confusing, and then you predict what the next part is about. After you've modeled it, the students become the teacher, take turns, and the real teacher gives feedback on how to use the 4 strategies more effectively. I like that one. Strategy 14, think aloud. This is just modeling while reading. And so you can model making predictions. You can model and verbalize your visualizations. You can model and verbalize anything you're confused about and your fix-up strategy. Oh, I'm going to reread that. Or let me think about what that means for a second. Strategy 15, frame sentences. You can give a frame and then ask to write as many sentences as they can. So I like blank. How many sentences can you write? You can get more complex with these. Strategy 16, poetic forms. It's the same as framing. It's a great framing to use for students to write more. And finally, strategy number 17 for integrative reading activities is process writing. So recognizing the process of writing. Some people call it rehearsing, drafting, revising. Other people add editing and sharing. The basic idea is that you need to talk through, draw, map out your story or your piece before you actually write it. Then the drafting stage is when you're writing with little care for spelling, you're playing with it, you're just getting your information down. Revising stage is when you're reading back through it, you're deleting parts, you're adjusting, you're asking yourself, is this what I meant to write? The editing stage is focused on conventions and spelling. You could use a peer or a teacher. And then the sharing stage is when you're deciding where you will share your piece. So that is 17 integrative reading strategies in 7.5 minutes.